Okay, I am live both on Facebook and in Instagram. Welcome to Simply Seasonal Live. I'm excited to be here today to talk about sweet cravings. As you can see, I'm missing my counterpart today. There's Megan. She's hopefully going to join us in online as she's traveling today because we have a big topic to talk about today. Hey, Rachel, thanks for coming. Um, it's been a great week thinking about sweet cravings. It was a great episode that we were really excited about. And it's interesting to think about it as sweet rather than sugar, because it's like sugar is a whole nother topic. And so I want to get into that. These live recordings are a really nice time when we're doing the videos. We're really trying to zone in on what are the most important things, the take-home things we need to present in 3 to 5 minutes. And we find it really difficult because, especially a topic like this one, there's so much we want to talk about. And so this is a great opportunity to just hang out and discuss the topics and have a conversation and bring up things that we didn't have time for in the video. So the first thing I want to say is that sweet is exactly sweet. It's not sugar. And that's how we originally started the video. Like, hey, are you talking about sugar? And it's like, no, not sugar, sweet. Sweet is something to embrace. It's part of our natural biology. It's a flavor just like sour and salty and bitter. And it's really important to help round us out and make us feel full and satisfied. And the problem was when we took sugar and turned it into this super refined powder and started pumping it into all these products, that it became a problem. So it's really important that we look at if our body is craving or wanting sweet or wanting sugar. Because one is like a craving and a need, and maybe it's emotional, maybe it's physical, needing energy. And the other, if you are if your sugar is out of control, then that can be an addiction. And it can also be something where you have yeast and candida growing in your body. And so it's not even you craving the sugar, it's that biome that's your microbiome that's kind of unhealthy right now. And those yeast and candida bugs are actually controlling your thoughts and saying they're like, we need more sugar to keep growing. Like, we're gonna die down here. And they'll actually instruct you to go get sugar. And so it's like, that's when that craving is like out of control and you're out of your mind, and it's not even you wanting the sugar, it's something deeper inside. That's those buggers that are looking for it. So it's important to understand the difference between that. So what we have talked about doing is incorporating all those natural sweeteners into our diet, which really helps satisfy that sweet, comforting part that nature is giving us in the winter. And we are looking for energy, but maybe we're looking for too much energy. We have to remember in winter that, back through evolution, like the lights went off and everybody went to bed. And now we have this false sense that we need more energy. We need to keep going because society is having us go further and harder and longer. And, especially with electricity, we can keep going. So it's important to know when to just stop and rest as well, right? So then there is something I did want to talk about is glycemic index. So, when a food is super hyper sugary, it's going to send your blood sugar racing up, and then there's going to be this really sharp decline. And that's, when you have a piece of candy or like something super sweet, or cake, or, eating the refined sugar. And so by adding protein, fats, fiber, all these things, it's going to bring the glycemic index down. So when we talked about in the video how like you can take a date as a sweet snack but put almond butter on it, this is gonna lower the glycemic index because you're giving your body more to work on and making it harder to digest, which is a good thing because it's filling you up longer and giving you more. So it's lowering the sugar, it's diluted, the sugar is diluted, and it's going to be more of a steady energy than this high-low, right? So we're looking for that steady go. So that's really important, and that's why when you add these sweet foods into other foods, it's more of a steady go. Like I was just reading about date syrup because people are using date syrup, and I'm like, well, here we go again. Like the date is a really great sweet thing to use to bake with and make treats with. But now when you're extracting the syrup and just pulling out just the sweet part and the syrupy part, you know, now it's a hyper sweet again. So I'm going to get to two questions that I was given. One is Franco wanted to know what is the deal with stevia? Okay, so stevia, here we go again, is an herb. So if you ever took a stevia leaf, it grows, it looks kind of like mint. And if you take a little bite of it, I mean, the tiniest, if you put it on your tongue, it's like, whoa, it's so sweet, like super, super sweet. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, there has to be some medicinal to it, something medicinal to it. But then when you take that leaf, so, you know, if you were going to take a stevia leaf and put it in water to make like a sweet tea, you know, use it as a tea or put it into something, that's one thing. But when they're extracting it now and using the oils and turning it into powders, okay, stevia is now, I think they said, anywhere from 3 to 100 times sweeter than sugar. So we're not getting to the root cause of this. We want our body to understand sweet, okay? So if you're used to the hyper sweet, stevia is still hyper sweet. So you're not curing that, let's call it an addiction or that need for that hyper sweet. You're looking to just replace it with something else. And maybe that's a good ease out of that. But the idea, and this is where really like a sugar detox would be so good for you. If you're still craving and feel like you need things to be so sweet that you're going to like aspartame and you know, these artificial sweeteners or stevia, or you know, pouring things with the syrups or agave, I mean, these are really sweet things. If you feel like you can't get enough, it's not sweet enough, I promise you could do it. 10 days, take out the sugar. I did this like in the beginning of my journey of IIN with Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, because it was so life-changing. And what really happens is when you do a sugar detox, you discover that there is so much sugar packed in so many processed foods, so it winds up turning into a clean eating detox, really, because you start reading the ingredients of everything and you realize that there's even sugar in your peanuts, and there's sugar, you know, in your yogurts, and there's sugar everywhere. And I'm not talking the natural sugars, so like a Lara bar, if you looked at the numbers, that's why I say don't look at the numbers, how many fats, how many sugars, how many proteins, how many carbs, because if you looked at a Lara bar, it would say there, you'd be like, oh my gosh, there's so much sugar in here, but it's not. It's just the natural sugar of the date. They don't add sugar in. And now labeling is starting to get to where they're going to, hey Megan, hey Tess. So now I'm so excited because they're starting to, in labeling, telling us how much is added sugar as opposed to how much is there naturally. I remember a friend of mine looking for yogurt once, and she wanted it for helping to fight with yeast. and just getting the probiotics. And she's like, what the heck? I can't find yogurt that doesn't have sugar in it, even the plain yogurts without flavoring. And I said, no, yogurt naturally, milk naturally has a sugar content to it. So there's a difference between the sugar that's part of the food and then the added sugar. And it's the added sugar that we need to be careful of. So when you look at that Lara bar, the only sugar in there is dates. And so with it, you get along all the fiber and all the minerals, and that's a much different sugar than them adding in corn syrup or fructose or sucrose or high fructose corn syrup or any of those kind of sugars. So that's the kind of sugar we're looking for. And when your body gets used to that kind of sweetening, you taste these hyper sugars and they no longer seem desirable. There's also something to, you want your body to register the calories. So they'll go, oh, well, stevia doesn't have any calories. That's why it's so great. There's no calories and it's this super sweet thing. So you can make everything really sweet with no calories. Well, I think there's a really big problem with that, because now your body is tasting this hyper sweet and not associating any calories to it. So it's making that food okay to gorge, right? Because you're not getting enough of it. There's no calorie intake from that. Whereas I stay away from those hyper sweets, and if I had one bite of chocolate cake or something like really decadent, I can have like 5 bites and it's so sweet. I mean, my teeth hurt. It's like you take a bite and you go, whoa, like it's shocking how sweet it is. And when I did that sugar detox, I'll never forget when my daughter Alex, she did it with me, and we decided one day, we took out fruit and everything because we wanted to do like full sugar detox. And we made our smoothie one day and we go, okay, the green smoothie. And we said, let's have half a banana today, you know, and we put it into the smoothie, and she drank the smoothie and she's like, Mom, did you put something else in here? And I'm like, no, it's just half a banana. And we were both blown away by how sweet it tasted, because we had brought our levels back down to a neutral. And so adding in that banana all of a sudden was like super sweet. And so it was a really cool experiment. I mean, just do it. It's 10 days of your life. Even do it for 7 days. Even do it for 2 days, 3 days. Just try and do it and see what happens if you're still going on the sugary stuff. So Rachel had a great question on substituting. So we talked about how we love to use maple syrup and honey and dates as our natural sugar, like in baking, because I still love baked goods. Yes, I still eat baked goods, but I make sure that they're not made with white flour or white sugar. So I've found a lot of recipes using maple syrup and honey and dates that are just as satisfying, even more satisfying and delicious. As far as substituting, Rachel, I would look, okay, so you're saying that you substitute coconut sugar for white sugar, and I do that too. It's a great substitution. You go 1-to-1, but that's when it's a granulated to a granulated. So when you can't really substitute in maple syrup when a recipe calls for granulated sugar. So my recommendation is start with a recipe that has maple syrup or has a liquid. You can even, if it has agave, you can do maple syrup, right? But it's the liquid that, thanks, Megan. It's the liquid that we need to look for, because if the recipe is constructed like that, I mean, unless you can get really creative and you don't care how, okay, they're going to come out a little mushy, but once you change from granulated to wet ingredient, it's totally going to change up the recipe. So lucky for you, Rachel, I have coming up in the next few weeks, there are 2 recipes coming out. One is going to be this maple fudge that is so delicious, and we're going to be releasing that with Valentine's Day, and it's amazing. So good and decadent. And the other one is I make a whole wheat banana bread using maple syrup. And so the recipe has maple syrup. It starts with that. So you can start more with a recipe kind of like that. And that one will be coming out as well. So I also found that when you search for recipes, like I used to search like no white flour, no white sugar. So if you search clean eating, so say like clean eating brownies, clean eating is a great buzzword. Even more, I think, than gluten-free, because sometimes you don't care if it's gluten-free unless you are gluten-free, then that's a good way to search it too. But I really try and do, or like no refined sugar or something like that, and I find recipes, Cookie and Kate is a kind of a cool blog. I also love Oshi Glows, like you said. Even these are a little cliche, but Food Babe has some really great recipes, and they're kind of tested all over, and so they're going to be good, and all her recipes I think are really good. And also Chris Carr, so Kriscarr. She's an amazing cancer survivor who is surviving with clean eating and kicking her cancer to the curb. And she has some really great recipes. So, every once in a while I'll look on there for inspirations, but, it's so amazing that we have the web. And, Megan and I talking about doing a cookbook as I'm, getting rid of all my cookbooks because, I always just go to the internet for things, but there's something about holding a cookbook that's really nice. So maybe we'll still do our cookbook. So let's see, other things I wanted to talk about. One thing I wrote down here as far as back to sugar and stevia. Sugar is completely inflammatory. And so when we think about it, this has been such a, I know, we need to do the cookbook. We'll do the cookbook. It'll come. Sugar is something that has been, all disease and chronic diseases, and it all stems from inflammation, right? And so I really feel like sugar is behind all of this. So it's really important to just kind of check where that's coming from. And so the sugar, I'm losing it here. Talk to me, guys. Talk to me. Oh, here's where I go. When we move to things like stevia, so sugar itself is completely inflammatory. It's super hyper sweet. When we move to stevia, then it's something that I read that it's actually certified as GRAS. Do you guys know what GRAS means? GRAS. Generally recognized as safe. So these are one of those things that, it's like, it seems like it's okay, it's not doing any harm, but there really hasn't been that much research on it. And so, it's a little bit sketchy, and I would stay away from it. And the bottom line is we need to bring everything back to a baseline, and we need to understand where our sweet cravings are coming from. If it's coming from, just our sugar being out of control, or if it's coming from that we need more sweetness in our life, we need more hugs, we need more loving relationships, or is it, are we not satisfying our sweet enough? Do we need to add in more sweet foods? And let me tell you that sweet is not, it's not a negative thing. It's not a problem. Like, we've made it into this evil, devilish thing, this taboo, thing that we're satisfying our sweet. But when we do it lovingly, and when we do it, with all natural things, it feels really good, and there's no need to reach for all, the crappy food. And when you get yourself to that point, you'll go ahead and be like, out of nostalgia, you'll be like, no, I love that candy. So I used to love Tootsie Rolls, okay? I don't know. It was like my thing that I always, on Halloween, like, I will trade you Tootsie Rolls for, I want your Tootsie Rolls, right? And then, so like as an adult, I'm like, I'm gonna have a Tootsie Roll. I'm gonna steal my kids' Tootsie Rolls on Halloween. And I put it in my mouth, and like all these weird, like I feel these like chemical things like coming out. It actually like does weird things in my throat. And I'm like, what is that? So it's awareness, right? It's always awareness. And really important to keep aware of what's going in and how it feels not just going down but afterwards. So sometimes going down, that nostalgic cake, that a sweet that my grandmother used to make, oh, I love that, it was like feels so good, and then afterwards I'm like, like it really doesn't feel as good as I never realized it didn't make me feel so good. So it's paying attention to things, and understanding how it affects your body on every level, not just your energy, but your thoughts, that when you have that hyper sweet, it's going to get your brain kind of flighting around, your heart racing a little bit, it's like a little bit of an adrenaline rush. And, do you need that? Does that feel good? It might feel good for the moment. And sometimes that's appropriate, right? And one other thing is that when we do indulge, and we're going to get into indulgence and cravings, after last week's conversation, we had so much great conversation about cravings, and it actually turned our Mardi Gras episode, which is coming up. We started it as indulgence, and then we've kind of been moving into cravings because it's just fascinating to think about cravings. If you think, oh, I forgot where I was going. Where's my counterpart to tell me what I was talking about? What I wanted to say is that when you go and indulge into that something really sweet, first of all, take your time and do it mindfully, and like really take it, but instead of just shoving it in, like really accept it and be like, I'm going to do this. And think about opening your cells and your body and like going at it with like, I want this. I want to digest this. I want to bring this into my body, as opposed to, this is so bad. This is so naughty. I'm being so bad. Oh my gosh. So everything's closing up, and you're telling your body, this is bad. Don't take this in. Don't take this in. Like, just ignore it. But no, like our body can handle it. And so when you indulge and when you go for it, like go for it. Franco, you make the most fabulous desserts, and I am going to go for it, right? But when I do, I'm going to eat it and be like, oh, I want to like smell it. I want to feel it in my mouth. I want to feel it going, right? Like invite it in and digest it with gusto. Like go for it with gusto and be all in. There's no like, I'm going to eat this, but I shouldn't really be eating this, because then you're kind of hiding it, and it's not hiding from anyone. It's going into your body, and not in a loving way. So like eat those things lovingly. And that's what I'm talking about, like homemade desserts. When we're talking about processed baked goods and candy, honestly, there's no room for it. I mean, it's just that nostalgia thing. Like if you just need to do it, and that's the thing that makes you super happy, maybe you have some memory attached to it that really makes you feel good, then just make it like a very, 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 very sometimes thing, and make sure to, clean yourself up after that and kind of wash it down with some green drink, or, eat lots of vegetables after that. Hey, Terry. Hey, Julie. Hey, Ada. We've been talking a lot about different sweet stuff. You guys kind of came in late in the game. If I start going over stuff, if you have questions, feel free to shout them out. But I have gone over the questions asked previously, and I have kind of gone over everything I wanted to talk about today. So if there are any more questions, this is where's Megan? See, we could be talking to each other. You guys need to talk to me today. So anyways, we're really excited. So next week, or tomorrow, our Valentine episode is coming out. It's very short and sweet. We talk about cliche Valentine gifts and why they are the perfect gifts in the middle of winter. And we also talk about chocolate. So chocolate is another thing that doesn't need to be looked at as an evil thing. Chocolate is actually kind of nice and good and perfect this time of year. It's just picking the right chocolate and eating it lovingly and knowingly with awareness, and so that's kind of all of it. Oh, are you in snow days? Gross and rainy days. I know. Rachel, it's all like when you're feeling cozy, when you're locked inside, if it's rainy, if it's snowy, it's all about keeping it the opposite. So soups and stews and potatoes and casseroles, right? That's what's going to kind of balance it out. And put all those sweet vegetables in there because they're going to make you feel cozy as well. It's so important. And actually we have a great shepherd's pie coming for you soon for St. Patty's Day, and all sorts of fun stuff. Yay! Yeah, so I'm going to get into chocolate. Rachel's asking a chocolate question. I'm going to save that for next week because I'm going to be solo again next week, and really the topic's going to be chocolate. So think about all your chocolate questions for next week, and I'm going to save that one for then, okay? Because Megan won't be here again next week, so it's going to be just me and chocolate and you, so maybe I'll bring some chocolate along. Oh, and by the way, I'm drinking a tea right now, a sweet tea. I just kind of brought them out to show you, and I realized in the sweet video that I said drink a sweet tea, and I'm like, okay, Texas people, don't think I mean sweet tea that has like all the sugar in it. That's not sweet tea. What I meant is herbal teas. This one I love. It's puka, and it has fennel and chicory and cardamom, and it's super sweet and a nice digestive for after dinner. So things like this are a really nice ritual if you find yourself going for sweets after dinner or before bed. Try turning it into a tea ritual. Another one is this yogi bedtime tea, and I really like this one as well. And this one has valerian root in it, which makes you feel really good. It's almost like a little bit of a stimulant, but in a more it really relaxes you. It's very, you can feel it. It's like a drug. It's delicious. But we also have licorice and spearmint, chamomile. So there's all sorts of yummy, and there's St. John's wort and rose hip. So this is a really nice bedtime tea that's going to be sweet and cozy and warming and try and help you sleep a little bit more. So, if you're putting sweets right before you go to bed, that's not helping you go to bed, then you're going to complain about that you can't sleep. Even with, a glass of wine at night is like not the best thing to do. Some people think it puts them to sleep, but like putting all that sugar in your body that at night is not necessarily the best. Maybe earlier with dinner is a little better idea than drinking it like until you're going to bed. That's not really the best idea. So, just think about it. It's pretty, makes sense. It's all common sense. And, so I think that's it on sugar. I'm looking forward to Valentine's Day episode coming out tomorrow. We have lots to share for that. It'll be a little bit short and sweet. And then I'll be here with you next week talking Valentine's Day. If you're curious about all the things I had to talk about sugar, about glycemic index, and trying a sugar detox, and cravings versus addiction, we talked about stevia, we talked about subbing in natural sugars for the refined sugars. If you want to hear about all this, it'll all be posted so you can go back and look. Okay? Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining me.